Good afternoon, everyone. I am Dr. Dwain Irvin, CEO of Novaxis Global, and I'd like to introduce Cori. She will be the first of our patient advocate series of interviews. Effectively, we are simply interested in identifying what the patient experience is like and what the loved ones and the supportive people of patients, what are their experiences like, and how can they potentially benefit from new therapies, and just hearing what how do we can we improve the quality of life for these patients as well, and just hearing their stories. And so we're really excited to have Cori on board as the first person to participate in this. She has a wealth of experience and knowledge for dealing with cancer for a very long time period, and I'll let her start to provide you those details. And once again, welcome, Cori. Great to have you on board.
Thank you.
So again, yeah, tell me, how are you connected to anyone? And what kind of experiences have you had with cancer?
I would say my first experience with cancer would have probably been when my mom got diagnosed with breast cancer. Um, she did do the traditional chemo. She did not have to have as much. She had to have surgery, the mastectomy. And then she also went a few years and then it came back in her bone. And so we she was given a year to live, and thank goodness she had 30 more years. That was a good, that one was, but I saw her go through the hair loss and a lot of that thing. And then the second one that was a very rough one to go through was a girlfriend of mine a few years ago had breast cancer. And because of in my opinion, the traditional chemo and the radiation, I won't go into detail, but it was brutal to watch that process. And then it seemed to be going away. And then you always hear it came back with a vengeance. I think that's the only place in our, everybody out there that we always hear that with cancer, it came back with a vengeance. And then most recently, about a year and a half ago, my husband was diagnosed with cancer. And because I had already been researching for 30 years because of my mom, and I didn't want to get cancer, I was already I feel like up to snuff on current things going on. Unfortunately, his cancer did not have an immunotherapy option. So we were shopping around. But he, we went to one close by hospital that's well known and really well respected. And when we got there, they had wanted to do a very long stint of chemo. And I knew from my research that wasn't the appropriate way to go, even according to the world right now with chemo. And so we went to another world renowned place close by. And I thought, oh, this will be better. Well, they did say less chemo, and it was about the right amount that I had researched. And then I said, okay, and what do you do to build up the immune system after he goes through this, or before or during, to prepare him to handle this? And they didn't really have an answer. They said he could do a Tums after chemo. That's about it. And I knew enough about the immune system that wasn't a good option. And then the third one we got to was more of immunotherapy, kind of, building up the immune system and having that be at the first and foremost thing to do, and did some different options through that. So but it's rough seeing somebody go through the traditional chemo and radiation. There's many people at the center we ended up with that do traditional chemo and radiation who do come in looking they just look like they have been hit by a Mack truck compared to the people that are doing it with more of an immunotherapy way of doing things. And they look gray. And after a few days of different treatments, they look a lot better. So
It's interesting you say they look like they've been hit by a Mack truck or it's been rough.
they have.
Talk a little bit about that in some details. You'd mentioned one of your, I don't know if it's your mom or friend turned gray. What are some of the other
Yeah.
changes you notice for patients
Well,
with
with my
chemo
mom, it was
radiation?
the hair loss, and that was the main thing that I saw the most. I think she didn't have as much sickness as they expected. So I think she had a really good oncologist back then. He really was. He didn't give chemo right away. It was like he waited and saw. He didn't just jump on the bandwagon and give all this chemo to destroy everything. I think he might have even done. If I had went back to the records, he might have done more of a low dose. I don't know. And then with my girlfriend, it was really rough. It was the hair, mouth sores, can't eat. And the nails are affected, eyebrows. And you don't realize how important your eyebrows and eyelashes are until you don't have them, and stuff is getting in your eyes all the time. And more things that are more graphic that I won't go into, but it was just really rough. And my husband, the way we went, more of a integrative approach, as far as like more of immunotherapy, and then also the building up the immune system with IV vitamin C and things like that. Um, he did not have the hair loss. He did not have the feeling sick, nauseous. He didn't have a lot of those. But people who do come in the center, sometimes they'll get traditional chemo and radiation and then come into a center like that. And, it's world renowned. So they come in, right? And when they come in, sometimes they've been through it. And so they have this gray, dark gray tone to their skin because the treatments, I have no idea, they say verbally to us they went through chemo and radiation, but I don't know if all of them that are looking like that have had the same thing. But within about 3 days of building up the immune system, their color comes back and they start improving the way they look.
Mm, interesting. Also, some of the as a spouse or a daughter or a friend, what has your experience been like, sort of watching them go through this process?
Well, that's the thing. It's like the fear because cancer. They don't tell you about the good stories. That everybody always. It's like being pregnant. They always tell you the worst stories about labor. You've heard so much that like when my mom got diagnosed, and then when it came back, I thought, oh well, this is it. When my girlfriend, when it came back with a vengeance, oh gosh, here we go. When my husband was diagnosed, I had, this fear. And then, just recently, with, and the reason why, you and I have known each other about 6, 7 years now. And your prior research is what, brought us together. But even with the glioblastoma treatment with immunotherapy, we had a friend years ago that her husband had a glioblastoma and he was a pilot and he had 2 young kids and he was well enough to still be active in the community or whatever, but his personality changed. And that's how they found out. He got unfortunately violent and things like that, which was really
Mm,
hard to see. She didn't know what to do
mm,
because he was still functioning, getting himself dressed in the morning, but his personality changed. Had another friend or excuse me, a loved one recently that had a brain tumor that they thought it was glioblastoma.
mhm,
And the waiting period to find out, because there's so much fear around it, because most people know that that is the worst type of brain cancer out there. There are, as far, I mean, you're the expert on that one, but I don't think there's anything out there as far as the way of treatment that's really that all that effective. And that's why, I chose to invest in Novaxis because uh, I believe in, giving some people some hope and some things that work. And when you started describing how Novaxis works, I was like, okay, that makes sense. One of the first things I said when we were going through it with my husband is, yes, you're fearful and you're going into research and you're talking to everybody and everybody has an opinion and you're trying to get to the facts and the studies and the research. But the thing is, when you're in the thick of it, you're hanging your hat on that hope, And so with glioblastoma, the hope it's not there as much.
mm.
So it's just to have the hope for them to be able to get beyond it. um, I just think I am just excited about it. I mean, it's just the fear that cancer patients have on if it's going to come back. And also we had somebody just recently that was a friend of my husband's and mine at the center who unfortunately, he had another kind of cancer, but it did go to his brain.
Mhm.
And usually when that happens, it's just a lot of times you lose them, and we unfortunately lost him. And he was a young man with a young boy, and it's
Mm.
rough.
Yeah, my condolences. It
Yeah.
is rough. Well, we do try to make use of new technology through our TLR81 technology, this dendritic cell-based immunotherapy. It's been around for about 20 years in clinical trials, trying to find out ways of optimizing it to treat glioblastoma. And we believe through some of that research and data, we are getting much closer with this technology. And we'll see what the FDA has to do. Say they just gave us orphan drug designation, and
Oh,
we'll be
yay.
applying through an IND process next year to get permission to start clinical trials.
Oh, and
And,
I've told you I have enough friends that I follow a couple of doctors that I really respect what they do, but I do follow one cancer group that I'm in. And there was a couple of times that I said, I know somebody, a friend of mine who, is starting to do this research and should be ready pretty soon for, the human clinicals. And I can't tell you how many people reached out to me and said, okay, we need it now,
yes.
so I when it comes to pass, when you're ready for people, it's going to be amazing to see some people get some really great results.
Well, we are looking forward to that as well. We will see what the data tells us. We're really excited. We're working very aggressively to try and bring this to trials as quickly as possible and as a means to get it to patients as quickly as possible. And we are looking forward to advancing technology, not just for treatment, but also to improve the quality of life for patients.
Oh, that'd be
And
great.
we'll talk, we're looking at other assets now that we would like to bring on in the future to help improve the quality of life for patients, while we also come up with novel therapeutics and or diagnostics moving forward as well. But we know the importance of the patient experience and the loved ones who support the patients through this process. And for that reason, we want to share that with the public as well. And you are our
Mm.
first and special, and we will definitely be looking forward to having you back on. So we hope that you continue. We also know you are very supportive of the company,
Yeah.
and we love that. And we want to do all that we can. So keep helping us to do a better job at providing a better service for these patients. And thank you so much for your time, Cori. Have a
Oh,
fantastic day.
thank you.